What if I told you that the most important flowers in next year's garden are planted long before spring ever arrives? It sounds backwards, doesn't it? Most people wait until the weather warms up before buying flowering plants. By then, they're already asking one question: why doesn't my garden look as full as everyone else's? The surprising truth is that many of the best blooming perennials would rather spend fall growing roots than producing flowers, and that's exactly why gardeners who plant them in August often enjoy stronger plants, bigger blooms, and fewer problems the following year. The problem isn't that you're planting the wrong flowers. It's that most people were never taught when those flowers actually want to be planted. Over the next few minutes, I'll show you 7 incredible perennials that quietly use the end of summer to build a hidden foundation underground. And don't miss the last plant on this list. It's one of the toughest bloomers you can grow, yet it's also one of the most overlooked. Let's get started. Number 1. Coneflower. Here's something that surprises a lot of gardeners. A coneflower planted in August may not look very impressive this year. And that's exactly what makes it such a smart investment. Most people think a plant should immediately put on a show. If it doesn't bloom right away, they assume something is wrong. But here's what most people never realize. Flowers are expensive. Think of them as the plant's biggest energy bill. Instead of spending energy on flowers, a newly planted coneflower spends autumn quietly building an underground network of roots. Imagine building the foundation of a house before decorating the rooms. It isn't exciting to watch, but without that foundation, nothing lasts. As the soil stays warm through late summer and early fall, the roots keep growing even after the weather begins to cool. By spring, that hidden work pays off with stronger stems, healthier leaves, and far more blooms than a spring-planted coneflower usually produces. The fix couldn't be simpler. Plant it in full sun. Water it consistently for the first few weeks. Then, let nature do the rest. The roots will keep working while you're barely thinking about gardening. Remember this: big flowers always begin with invisible roots. Now that we've looked at a prairie favorite, let's move to a perennial that's often blamed for poor blooming when the timing, not the plant, is usually the real problem. Number 2. Black-eyed Susan. Have you ever seen a black-eyed Susan that looked healthy but produced only a handful of flowers? Most gardeners assume it needs more fertilizer. Actually, too much fertilizer can make the problem even worse. It encourages leafy growth instead of flowers. The real magic happens underground. When planted in August, black-eyed Susans use the remaining warm soil to settle in before winter arrives. Instead of struggling through summer heat while trying to establish themselves, they get months to quietly prepare for next season. Think of it like moving into a new home months before starting a demanding new job. Everything becomes easier. Come spring, the plant already knows where its water is, where its nutrients are, and how to grow quickly. That's why older plants often seem to explode with blooms. They aren't stronger because they're older. They're stronger because they're established. Give them full sun and well-drained soil. Water until they're settled, then avoid overdoing it. These plants actually appreciate a little independence. The takeaway? An established plant blooms with confidence. Speaking of confidence, the next perennial proves that some of the toughest-looking flowers are secretly planning months ahead. Number 3. Russian Sage. If you've ever admired huge clouds of purple flowers dancing in the wind, there's a good chance those plants started their journey months before anyone noticed. Many gardeners believe Russian Sage thrives simply because it's drought-tolerant. That's only part of the story. Its real strength comes from an extensive root system. Think of those roots as a giant underground pantry. Every extra week in warm soil lets the plant store more food for next season. By spring, it's already stocked up. That's why August planting gives it such an advantage. The above-ground growth may look quiet. Below ground, it's incredibly busy. Plant it somewhere sunny. Don't spoil it with rich soil. Russian sage actually prefers conditions that many other flowers dislike. Too much care often creates weaker plants. Sometimes less really is more. Remember, strong roots love simple conditions. Now let's switch to a perennial that's famous for attracting butterflies, but only if you help it get established at the right time. Number 4, garden phlox. Garden phlox has one reputation: beautiful flowers. Unfortunately, it also has another reputation: powdery mildew. Most people assume mildew means the plant is unhealthy. Not necessarily. The real issue is stress. A plant that's constantly fighting heat, dry soil, or poor air circulation has less energy left for healthy growth. Planting in August gives phlox time to settle before next summer's challenges arrive. Instead of spending next June recovering from transplant shock, it spends June producing flowers. That's a huge difference. Give it morning sun, rich soil, and enough spacing for air to move between plants. It sounds simple, but airflow is like opening windows in your house. Everything works better. The memorable lesson? Healthy plants solve problems before they appear. We've talked about flowers that love sunshine. Now let's visit the shady side of the garden. Number 5, Hellebore. Here's a flower that completely ignores the gardening calendar. While most plants are waking up, hellebores are often already blooming. That's why August planting makes so much sense. Most gardeners think shade plants don't grow very much. Actually, cooler weather is when many shade-loving perennials feel most comfortable. Instead of battling scorching summer afternoons, they're quietly expanding their roots. Think of them as night shift workers. You don't always see the progress, but by morning, the work is done. Choose a partly shaded location with rich, well-drained soil. Keep it evenly moist while it's getting established. Then let it settle in for winter. When everyone else is waiting for spring, you'll already have flowers. Here's the takeaway: the best surprises are planned months in advance. Speaking of surprises, the next perennial practically shines when many summer flowers begin fading. Number 6, Sedum. This plant teaches one of the biggest lessons in gardening. Patience beats panic. People often worry because sedum grows slowly after planting. But here's the surprising part: it's supposed to. Instead of racing upward, it's quietly strengthening below ground. Imagine saving money before making a major purchase. That's exactly what sedum does. It saves energy first, then spends it later. By the following season, those thick stems easily support huge flower clusters that pollinators absolutely love. Sedum dislikes soggy soil, so resist the temptation to water constantly. Its thick leaves already store moisture. Too much water causes far more problems than too little. Remember, slow beginnings often create spectacular endings. And finally, the perennial that many experienced gardeners quietly plant every single August. Number 7, Peony. Peonies are famous for one thing: their breathtaking blooms. But they also teach one of gardening's greatest lessons: good things really do take time. Many people become disappointed because a newly planted peony doesn't immediately fill with flowers. They assume they've failed. Actually, the plant is doing exactly what nature intended. Peonies hate being rushed. When planted in August, they spend autumn settling into their permanent home. That's important because peonies dislike being moved later. Think of them as planting a tree rather than an annual flower. You're planting for years, not weeks. Choose a sunny location with excellent drainage. And here's one detail almost everyone misses: don't bury the crown too deeply. Just a couple of inches too low can dramatically reduce blooming. It's a tiny mistake with a huge impact. Once established, however, a healthy peony can reward you with spectacular flowers for decades. The lesson? Some of the best gardens are built with patience, not speed. If there's one thing I hope you remember, it's this: beautiful spring gardens don't begin in spring. They begin with decisions made months earlier. If your flowers haven't been as impressive as you'd hoped, it probably isn't because you have a black thumb. More often than not, the plants simply needed a better start. So don't feel like you have to redesign your entire garden this weekend. Choose just one of these perennials. Find the right spot. Get it into the ground this August. Then let nature do what it does best. By next year, when those bigger blooms begin appearing, you'll know the real work happened long before the first flower opened. And if you enjoy learning the hidden reasons plants succeed, not just the gardening tips everyone repeats, subscribe and join me for the next video. There's always another simple trick that can make your garden healthier, stronger, and more beautiful than you ever thought possible.